Who is the most delusional person you've known? I work in a small town radio station. I've seen lots of rookies fresh out of broadcast school let the tiny amount of fame they get from being on a small town radio station go to their head. This one guy came into work one day, madder than hell that small town radio famous wasn't famous enough to get him out of a speeding ticket. Worked a night's job where I met someone who was studying rather than going to school. Eventually I got out of him that he was studying to be a seducer. He studied Cleopatra, Rasputin, Casanova, etc. to learn the art of seduction. Basically this guy's life plan was to just seduce his way through life. He had an intricate plan on how he was going to seduce our supervisor for a raise, seduce multiple spouses to support him, even how to get free coffee by seducing the barista. He must have done a lot of seducing to keep working that barely over minimum wage night job for years. My brother was always bragging about how chicks he worked with wanted to FCK him. Then after 2 or 3 months when he inevitably quit or got fired, whenever the guys were talking about chicks they hooked up with, he would always talk about these beautiful women that wanted him which he just never got around to hooking up with. One time after starting a new job, he comes home all excited and yells, "Holy shit. The receptionist at this place is gorgeous and guess what? She wants to FCK me." I said, "Dude, you've been there one day. How do you know she wants to FCK you?" So he says, "Well, I just walked through the front door and as I was passing by, she looks me dead in the eye and says." My current boss. He thinks the business is doing okay or is in a rough spot. He's slowly choking and killing it with his managing. I see the shop closing mid to late August. The pastor of a church who believed that he was, his own words, God's gift to preaching. Even though attendance was dropping precipitously. When told that his sermons were too long and meandering, and that the people wanted more prayer to God instead, he replied, "People don't come to church for God, they come to hear what I have to say. Guess who's going to hell for pride?" My aunt, my mom's sister. She constantly stirs drama with other people and then calls you out for being mean to her. WTF lady. For example, one time I came outside and I see her pull up in her car. She starts chit-chatting to my mom. They're talking about her haircut. I tell my mom we needed to go and she drove away shortly after. Totally fine. I get a call from another relative a week later that she's angry with me because the day she came over I rolled my eyes at her and she reads lips. She knows I said something about her. This didn't happen. She then continues to post on social media how karma is gonna get me, while simultaneously commenting on all of my stuff, saying how cute my daughter is. Delusion. A very, very good friend of mine comes from a super rich family. His dad recently bought $1 million home to sell it to him for under $300 K. He thinks his family isn't that wealthy, and this isn't that abnormal. My little sister. Me and my eldest sister were raised by an alcoholic mother who left us with random people so she could get drunk. When I was about 6 my mom sobered up and had my little sister. The girl is delusional and has adopted the idea that she went through what me and my older sister went through. She recalls memories that never happened. She swears my mom beat her. Never happened. She makes up stories. Like she was a mortician. She traveled around the world. She dated such and had tons of money. It's so weird. She spends every waking moment on Facebook and posts every single thing that goes on in her life. She has a felony. She beat her baby daddy until they broke up and now both of those psychos have a really shitty custody fight going on. I could go on and on. She makes up stories like she was a mortician. Lol. I read this as she makes up stories. Just like how morticians are always making up stories. My schizophrenic uncle. He ran away from home, US, in his teens to Turkey. Converted to Islam. Came home a few years later. Believed he was the son of God and robbed a bank so he could give the money to the homeless in the city we live in. He was institutionalized for many years. Was released one day with no notice to our family and died shortly thereafter of an accident caused by his mental illness. And robbed a bank so he could give the money to the homeless in the city we live in. Well, this dude who used to live near me. There is a laundry list of stories, but 2 gems are: when he took those fake $1 billion bills you get at Halloween from church groups to Walmart, filled 8 shopping carts with random expensive stuff, mostly electronics, and tried to buy them with the money. Or when, after the cops being called for him shooting our much younger neighbor with an airsoft gun, he grabbed a samurai sword and charged at the cops. Spoiler alert. He got tased. He later told us if they shot at him he would cut the bullets in half like Ryan Reynolds did in X-Men Origins. My ex-boyfriend plays the victim to his friends and family. Yet I have spoken to 2 of his exes and we've all called the cops on him at some point. He obsesses and stalks and harasses. He tried to break into my app once after we broke up to apologize to me and tried to convince my roommate I was unstable and making rash choices. We've been broken up 7 months now. I have a new BF. And he still sends me emails saying I'm being unreasonable. Met a guy in the psych ward with psychosis who believed he was a prophet. Really nice guy. I have a quote written by him. Madness is not pure error. It is nature's dissatisfaction with genius. My cousin has insisted to my family that I get exorcised because I'm gay and autistic. She thinks that only the devil himself can corrupt someone to this extent. The only problems with her theory are that I am neither gay nor autistic. And she's the one touched by Satan. Guy at my college thought he was God's gift to women just because he worked out daily. He looked more like an albino Dwayne Johnson with curly hair. It was like Casper took steroids and started hitting on anything that moved. My little sister who somehow got it into her head that we grew up in the ghetto, we didn't, and that it is okay to keep popping out kids with different baby daddies because if God didn't want me to have babies, he wouldn't let me get pregnant. OMFG, I want to hit her in the face every time she says something like this. BTW. She is now pregnant with her 5th child, right after being a complete hypocrite when she got pregnant last year and had an abortion because she wanted a girl. She is finally having her girl. So hopefully she stops. And before I get a bunch of angry messages, she lives off the government. Baby daddies do not support their kids. So she brags about being a hustler. My uncle decided his thoughts were so profound he tried selling printed canvases with some of his quotes on them. Yes. Sentences he came up with himself. And no, he is not successful or any sort of leader in his field. Nor anything that would warrant quoting or displaying anything he has ever said. He also decided to write a book on his life, of which he has achieved sucking my auntie dry of money and contact with her family because none of us want to be around him. Spiritually pious and delusions of grandeur. An ex-friend of mine cried multiple times because she thought guys were only interested in me and not her. And that I must be doing something insane to attract their attention since she's the skinnier, more obsessed with her looks one. A girl that was interested in me told me that she came from another planet. That she wasn't human. She was 100% serious. Even told me I was like her and we were maybe from the same planet. 10/10 would nope again. In fairness, you probably were from the same planet. Just not the one she thinks. Definitely my uncle. He claims to be the descendant of some wealthy noble family from Germany and goes around genealogy websites adding himself and my grandmother to said family, claiming she's a princess. Not my dad though. He doesn't count. This is only the latest one. He also has pretended to be a priest and a diplomat at some point, as well as having several diseases, so he could get money, sympathy from people and heavy prescription drugs. HIV, melanoma, Parkinson's. The list goes on. We tried having him admitted, but he always gets discharged a day or 2 later. Since he's very good at convincing everyone he's fine and that's us that want him out of the picture. Edit. Typo. Man. I thought most of these would be funny, but now I'm kinda sad. It's terrifying to think that people can go their whole lives. They're one shot at existence. Being so sheltered and afraid. My friend's ex went off her bipolar meds because she was convinced love was the cure to her bipolar disorder. I feel better now, so that means I don't need my meds anymore. Bipolar isn't a bacterial infection. You don't take meds for a while and then you're cured of it. Weirdly, they broke up after about the millionth violent mood swing. And now she spends her days getting fired from every single job and doing hallucinogenics. Our Insomnia Professor book is a good place to find those people. Guy I knew who wanted me to quit my well-paying job. Quit school to spend more time with him, to watch him sit on the couch all day, be a potato and play video games. He couldn't wrap his head around why I also refused to regularly attend comedy shows with him on Sunday or Monday nights. The reasons I wouldn't go. 1. He wouldn't ask me beforehand what my schedule was. Just assumed I'd naturally want to go. He'd buy the tickets and apply the pressure. 2. I work. He did not. I'm also doing my MBA. 3. The shows were for the most terrible. Think open mic types with unpolished amateurs. That's right. He thought the world revolved around his schedule. Oh, and he was a narcissistic babbling logorhic who couldn't STF you when walking down the street. You know, the kind who has to point out every single thing he sees. From the dog passing by to the items in the window to crap on the curb. A friend growing up kinda just started being a piece of shit as soon as we got out of high school. I was friends with both him and his girlfriend. It got to the point where he would tell her to walk to my house after work instead of picking her up because I was close by and he didn't want to drop what he was doing, usually getting high in another friend's basement. Then he physically assaulted her. I blew up at him. She wised up and moved on. And then he had the balls to actually post my friends and girlfriend abandoned me. I guess nice guys really do finish last after she left him. Never wanted to get physical with a former friend so far. Then when I was 18-21, I had a 40-year-old boss who just so badly wanted to be one of us kids. Only he was also a creep. Knew he was a creep, but blamed it on being Hispanic. How you are so self-aware while also fooling yourself and being a creep is beyond me. My fiance registered sign has a childhood friend who doesn't believe in space. He doesn't believe there are planets either. He also believes the earth is flat, which somehow isn't a planet either. When asked to explain his beliefs, he provided a biblical explanation that made no sense. And I don't just mean no sense like that's ridiculous, but no sense like, I have no idea what you just said. A friend of mine tried to argue with me that him coming from a wealthy family made it harder for him to find a job. His reasoning was bias, not enough experience. No one said you couldn't work when you were younger. You just didn't have to. My father. This dude fell for the Nigerian prince spam. Twice. He believes every single conspiracy theory he hears. He thinks God cured him of autism. Which vaccines gave him? He is by far the dumbest person I know or have ever known. But he thinks he is a genius. Edit. A few conspiracy theories he believes. The US used holograms of demons to fight in Vietnam and that's why we lost. Because it made God mad. There's a secret cabal working towards a one world government. And they regularly have people killed. All the scientists in the world conspire to fake evidence of evolution to lead people away from Christ. Colleges are set up by the one world government cabal to brainwash people into sinning. He's an anti-vaxxer. He believes that chemtrails are real. And not only target people but also target ecosystems so the scientists can use it as proof of global warming. He thinks Hillary has people who testify against her killed. He thinks Hillary Clinton had John F. Kennedy Jr. killed. And so many more. My stepsister. She and her mother have some weird delusion where anything bad that happens to them will be taken care of by someone else. They never have to take responsibility for anything or actively attempt to change their own lives. It's all about what someone else can do for them. It's the oddest thing. Example. Just got off the phone with my mom telling me my stepsister had no idea she would have student loans to pay back once she graduated. She thought the university gave her a free ride. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I know a girl that is incredibly against modern medicine, including all vaccines. She believes that giving her child proper nutrition will keep them from getting diseases. Yup. Just take some celery, that'll get rid of that polio. Family of some friends of mine. They have 8 kids. 9th on the way, and they live by the philosophy that God will provide. They do not work. They are barely able to feed the kids. They all have dirty, ragged clothes and live with whichever family members are able to tolerate them at the time. One of those friends of mine lined the job up for the father, who quit 2 weeks into the job. When I say quit, I mean he just stopped showing up. And when confronted about all of these things and the well-being of their kids, they just keep saying God will provide. This is so stupid. If you don't believe, then of course these people are delusional. If you do believe, like me, these people are still so damn stupid. Because if you believe God provides, then who do you think provided in the form of a friend hooking you up with a job? Dumbus? A woman named Margaret who lived with a friend when I was a teenager. She believed she had tracking devices in her body and her teeth. She drilled her own fillings out in the bathroom with an actual drill. One morning we woke up to her standing over us with an iron. The iron was plugged in and hot. When we asked her what the FCK, she mumbled some incoherent sh-t, put the iron down and walked off. She randomly freaked out and would go to a condo she owned, but was afraid to live in. Then call friend's dad to come get her because she was locked in her bedroom to keep the people there from getting her. Never anyone there, obviously. When she finally moved out, we were packing her stuff up and found a diary of some sort that documented her and a friend's abduction by aliens, the chip implanting, and a loaded 357. She killed herself a short time later. Was an inpatient at an adolescent's mental hospital for about a week. This girl came in and she was scary to listen to. She was screaming about the yellow brick road, how we're all damned, something about Jesus. You know those horror movies where someone is possessed? She sounded like that. She had to be locked in the padded room a lot of the time. Hope she's doing okay. Guy claimed there were aliens on most planets and that each alien had Jesus, but in that alien's species. Most planets are most habitable planets. The latter isn't such an unreasonable thing to believe. I knew a girl that would instantly fall in love with almost any boy she met. I mean, it was hard to talk to her because she was always talking about a boy she wanted to kiss or ask out, and she'd become obsessed with them. The problem was that 99% of the time, the guys didn't have any interest in her, and I'd get calls in the late hours of the night with her crying because some boy she liked didn't want her. It got really bad to the point that her parents had to shut down her phone's camera and texting ability because she was sending naked pictures of herself to guys to try and win them back. So now the only way she talks to people is by calling them. And she is always calling me to the point that I haven't answered her in months. Probably myself. But I saw a therapist for a while and things are a lot better now. Some of the more memorable delusions include being convinced that zombies were real and always imminently about to try and kill me. Being convinced also that I'm nothing more than a guinea pig in a simulation and no one else is truly real. Believing that any angry looking white men with big backpacks on the bus were carrying bombs. Believing that there's a ghost woman who specifically haunts the upstairs of the house and she wants me dead. Yeah. I still have trouble sometimes with that last one. Close bracket. Also, for a while I couldn't be near windows because I was sure that someone was gonna shoot me. Fun times. Edit. Okay, wow. I wasn't expecting to get responses to this. Thanks for the support. I'm definitely in a better mental state these days. And therapy was a lot of help with that. I hope anyone else on this thread dealing with delusions is getting good help too. Since I know it's tough trying to deal with delusional sh-t on your own. A girl I dated for some time. It's hard to tell whether pathological, lies stopped and the delusions began. But she was quite the train wreck. At the age of 20 she was already all of the following things: professional dancer, nurse, stewardess, journalist and published author. Her family owned a third of Norway. And she was a celebrity that no one heard of. Haha. Not the most. But I asked my buddies if they wanted to go swimming and one of them told me I should have asked a couple weeks back so he'd have time for his summer body. I'm not sure if he planned to get ripped in 2 weeks. But I'm pretty sure it doesn't work that way. Aragon Chastain. This is a fat activist who is 5'3" and 300 plus pounds whose big project at the moment is training to do an Ironman, swim 4 miles, bike 112 miles, and run 2 miles back to back, without losing any weight. It's been almost 3 years of training and so far her biggest accomplishments are finishing a marathon in just over 10 hours and doing a 5K in 56 minutes.